Meanwhile, back at the Hall of Justice. Welcome, my super friends. Today I introduce our newest member, the SpiderMan. I was just looking for a bathroom.
He's so cute. Can we keep him, Batman? Please, huh? Please?
Okay, look, I got these 3 Goonie birds following me, so I'm just gonna drop the kids off at the pool, and I'm out of here. Great Scott! He's gone into the translocation chamber!
Let's see where he ended up. Looks like he's battling the Joker in Casablanca.
Oh, I hate DC Silver Age stories.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Carbon Scoring, the best place for comics, history, and action figures. I am a huge fan of Mego's World's Greatest Superheroes. They were the first action figures that I remember having as a kid. And this collection behind me was my first attempt at adult action figure collecting. I picked these things up back in the late 90s off of eBay. Back when if you won an auction, you had to go to the bank, get a cashier's check, mail it to the seller, wait for it to clear, and then they would send you your item. It typically took like a month before you actually got your thing. But it was totally worth it, having the greatest heroes in both the Marvel and DC universes in the same toy line. But there hasn't been a new Marvel Mego figure in 45 years. Until now.
This video would not have been possible without Brick Mantooth's great YouTube channel. As you can see, I'm a subscriber. He also edits the Mego Museum website, a resource that I have been using for decades, and it was on his channel that I first became aware of these figures. Not only that, if he hadn't made this social media post, I would have missed the 10-minute window when these figures were available on DisneyShop.com. So please, go check his stuff out. It's fantastic. But to truly understand the significance of these figures, you need a little history on the world's greatest superheroes line. The Mego Corporation was founded in 1954 by David Abrams, mostly creating inexpensive toys for dime stores. But everything changed in 1971 when David's son Marty took over the company and shrewdly shifted the business into licensed action figures like Planet of the Apes and Star Trek. But it was the world's greatest superheroes that set the new standard in action figures. These hyper-articulated 8-inch cloth costume beauties dominated the toy aisles of the 1970s, generating hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. But while Marty was in Japan, signing the deal to bring Micronauts to the US, he missed the opportunity to obtain the Star Wars toy license, with it going to rival Kenner instead. While you commonly hear that missing out on Star Wars doomed Mego, and it did play a part, as they tried to play catch-up with less successful sci-fi brands like Buck Rogers and Black Hole, it was heavy investment into electronic toys that just didn't sell, that overloaded the company with debt, and by 1982, Mego had declared bankruptcy. But you can't keep a good toy line down. Not when there are uber-talented, passionate collectors out there like Paul Clark, better known as Dr. Mego, who handcrafted replacement Mego parts starting in the 1990s. Remember my vintage Mego collection? Yeah, I couldn't afford pristine examples, so I supplemented these with reproduction parts from Dr. Mego himself. Marty Abrams revived Mego in 2018, with Paul joining the reformed company as production manager, and together, they are taking the world's greatest superheroes to untold heights. And while Paul was involved with some near Mego projects, for my money, the official return of the world's greatest superheroes was 2022's 50th anniversary line. The first wave had all the original DC male heavy hitters from the original line, and as a bonus, they were boxed in replica packaging exactly like their 1972 releases. But this wave had 2 special bonuses: the long-awaited arrivals of the Flash and Green Lantern.
These were the 2 figures that showed me that Mego was truly serious about getting back into the game. These were characters that had long been rumored to be in the pipeline to be made in the world's greatest superheroes line. Green Lantern, with that classic kind of Neil Adams, Gil Kane artwork, looks so fantastic with his mask and that spit curl on his hair, and he does have the classic 70s costume. Each of these in the reproduction boxes with the 50th anniversary gold logo. And then the Flash. Oh, what a great Barry Allen head sculpt. You know, Mego, as they started to come back, were producing some DC superheroes, and they did a Flash, but it was much more of a Wally West modern Flash. This has that great kind of Carmen Infantino artwork, that great 70s style guide look. Oh, these two are fantastic. And one of the reasons why there were rumors that these were soon to be included in the original Mego line is they did show up on some of the other products in Mego's arsenal. Yeah, I kind of wanted to just show off my Hall of Justice playset. I got this at Retro Toy Con, put on by Toy Federation a couple of years ago in Greenville, South Carolina, and this thing is so great. You saw it in action where we opened it up and you had the entire Hall of Justice inside. But the artwork on the outside is just as good because this acts as a virtual carrying case for your Mego figures. Look at that great Neil Adams Batman. So Neil Adams and his Continuity Studios were responsible for the artwork on this packaging, and you can see just how dynamic it is with Supergirl. But if you look here, there's Green Lantern right there on the packaging. And it was images like that that made people think that Green Lantern and Flash were soon to come in the line. For me, I'm just super psyched to have this incredible piece in my collection. I gotta acknowledge one more huge influence on this video, and that is Toy Fair the magazine. If you are an old school collector like me, you remember just how monumental every issue of Toy Fair was. This one actually came out in October of 1998. And of course, Toy Fair was the home of Twisted Mego Theater, which was clearly the influence for the opening skit of this video. In Twisted Mego Theater, Mego SpiderMan basically acted like a Bugs Bunny-esque jerk throughout the whole thing with his snarky comments and just general buffoonery. So if you remember Toy Fair, certainly you remember Twisted Mego Theater. And I actually just came into contact with the first 50 issues of Toy Fair. So if you're interested in me doing a retrospective on this landmark magazine, let me know in the comments. But hey, if you're just here for the best in comics history and action figures, give the video a like and hit subscribe, because we're bringing you quality content like this every week.
The next wave brought out the bad guys, with 3 originals plus the Reverse Flash. Where things really got interesting was with the third wave, a complete set of all new characters, including some of the best looking 8-inch figures ever made.
Yeah, these figures in this third wave are absolutely spectacular. Look at this Dr. Fate with that golden helmet and this gorgeous blue and yellow colors. It looks so good. And then you get kind of a retro looking art design on the back, but up front you have a more modern Justice League logo, which carries on to the Firestorm figure. And again, beautiful head sculpt. You can see that flaming head with terrific paintwork in there. But look at how good this bodysuit is with the flared out shoulders and all the different almost Kirby-like aspects to it. Such a cool figure. But when it comes to new sculpting, few of these figures are going to top the face sculpt on this Two-Face. Oh, if you're going to get one right, if there's one figure that's going to look absolutely perfect in a cloth costume, it's Two-Face with his dual identity, with his double-breasted suit and the 2 different styles of it. But then just look at how incredible that Harvey Dent head sculpt is. If this is what we're going to be seeing from Mego in their DC World's Greatest Superhero line, I can't wait to see what's next.
The answer is they just keep getting better. The next series has been announced and it is loaded. No pre-order info just yet, but stay tuned.
But the coolest thing about the World's Greatest Superheroes was that it combined the best of Marvel and DC all in one toy line.
Which is why this pack is so special.
So yes, here it is in hand, the first of the 4 packs from the Disney store, the Marvel Mego figures. This thing looks incredible. Look at this package artwork on the back. You've got that great World's Greatest Superheroes logo and Marty Abrams himself. Now, again, I feel so fortunate to have this because if I hadn't seen Brick Mantooth's post, I would not have been online in time to order these from the tiny little window that they were available on DisneyShop.com. when Mantooth did an interview with Marty Abrams and Paul Clark, they talked about having 5 4-packs ready to go for this year, a total of 20 new Marvel Mego figures. Now, in this pack, you've got 3 figures that we've seen before and an all-new figure in Electro. So Mego really only made 10 unique Marvel figures back in the 1970s. So that means if they do the complete 20 figures that they have planned, we could get the 10 that we had and 10 completely unique figures. So who would you like to see? I mean, there's some obvious ones like some classic Avengers like Hawkeye, Vision, Scarlet Witch, Black Widow. Those would be very good. Obviously some villains like Doc Ock and Doctor Doom. But what about the X-Men? There's a world of characters that are possible for that. And when Brick Mantooth interviewed Marty Abrams and Paul Clark, they said it was important to show Disney not just that these would sell out, but that they would sell out fast. And I think so far so good. They disappeared from the Shop Disney site almost instantaneously. As a matter of fact, after I ordered mine, I went back 10 minutes later to try to order another set. Gone. So hopefully that's a good sign. The ones that are on eBay are going for upwards of $300. So if that's any indication, the desire is there. And hopefully videos like this only make that much more obvious to the people at Disney so that we can continue to get the full 5 4-packs and all the new characters that could potentially come. But we've got them. Let's open them up and take a look. There is truly only one place to start, and that is with the Amazing Spider-Man. Now, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe I read that Spider-Man sold more than any other Mego figure in the 1970s. And that's kind of amazing because he didn't come out with the very first sets. He actually came out with the second series. But if you've never held a Mego figure in your hand, oh, you are missing out. The feel of that cloth costume, the really, really well articulated body. Look, ankles, knees, hips with ball hips, ball shoulders. You've got a bicep swivel. You've got even a wrist hinge. There's a little bit of articulation at the waist. And again, remember, these designs are over 50 years old. Now, at the time, of course, they're basically kind of scaled down versions of the 12-inch G.I. Joe figures, which had been the predominant scale for boys' action figures at the time. But Mego then converted that down to 8 inches, which is so much easier. They fit in your pocket. They fit in child's hands so much better than a 12-inch figure. And you were able to build play sets and vehicles at a much more reasonable cost to parents. Now, this one is just beautiful. You can see how bright the colors are. Spidey doesn't have painted in web lines, but they are sculpted in all the way around. And of course, he's got that classic logo on the back. Now, these look like they're attached with a Velcro, whereas the originals actually had a button. Speaking of originals, let's grab my original Spider-Man and do some comparisons. So this is my Spidey that I've had since the 1970s, and look at how remarkably similar they are, down to the spider on the chest and even the web pattern on the costume. These things look great. Now, first of all, my Spidey's in pretty decent shape, all things considered. He hasn't faded out too bad, and he's got really clean paint on his eyes. The back, you can see the differences between the buttons on the 70s versus the Velcro enclosure on the newer ones. And that actually helps with that back logo looking a little bit clearer on the new figures. But overall, an incredibly faithful representation of the Amazing Spider-Man. Next up, you have Spider-Man's greatest enemy, the Green Goblin. Now, the Mego Corporation was, a for-profit enterprise. And so they were not afraid to reuse parts and, get the most out of their molds. But the Green Goblin has so many unique parts, beginning with this incredible head sculpt. He's got like the eyelashes from Steve Ditko's design, but he has almost the smile and the facial structure of John Romita Sr.'s design. Just a classic Green Goblin with kind of the mesh, the scale pattern, and he's got his satchel and boots. So again, this was a figure that Mego went all out on giving the deluxe treatment. Now, he didn't come with a glider. We're not going to go that far, but this is a lot of new tooling for this figure. And he's one that can be pretty hard to find these days in this kind of mint condition. So I'm really glad that more collectors are going to get a chance to grab a hold of it. In fact, recently I believe it was a boxed example. So originally Mego figures came in boxes, and then they were later sold on cards. So because Goblin was a later figure, most of his carded examples are going to be on cards. But I think there was a rare boxed version that sold at auction for almost $77,000 a couple of years ago. So you can imagine that when I picked up my Green Goblin back in the late 90s, yeah, he wasn't in quite as good a shape as that. And, look at how faded out this guy is. I mean, it's almost like a completely different color. Still has that same great facial sculpt. I stuck a little pumpkin bomb in his hand. I think his shoulder's broken. He probably needs some surgery. But we mentioned Paul Clark and his role in revitalizing these characters, as well as his role in fandom as being Dr. Mego. This is a Dr. Mego replacement satchel and Dr. Mego replacement boots from the late 90s ordered off of his website. And they still hold up great. They still look really good. So I'm not going to replace my original Green Goblin, but I am glad to have a bright, shiny new one. The third of our Spider-Man figures is the Lizard, Kurt Connors, right here in all of his glory. And I love this like soft, long tail. He has kind of that same scale look that you saw on Green Goblin's outfit. But look, completely newly sculpted lower limbs because they've got that scale on it, and he even has the scale on his hands. Now, again, Mego was not afraid to save a little money when they had the opportunity, and the head on the Lizard was repurposed for the Star Trek villain Gorn. And hey, I got no problem with that. I'm more than happy to have a Lizard fight my Star Trek guys. Oh, he's just so clean. I love the tattered legs here, like where he's ripped through his jeans, and he does have this incredible lab coat with the little pocket right there. Now, my Lizard that I got back in the 90s to try to build my collection, I'm not sure if this is an actual Mego lab coat or if this is something else. It's probably something that the eBay seller just threw on there. Again, mine is obviously a lot worse for wear. He's lost a lot of his shine and paint, and look at how faded out his tail is compared to the brand new one. Still has that soft kind of stuffed animal material in there, but it looks like a kid's balloon that hasn't been blown up. So great job. Definitely love the look of this new Lizard figure. And finally, Electro in a brand new package. Look at how good he looks in that yellow package with the red highlights. Spider-Man's arch enemy, Electro. Oh, so good. If you look here on the back, they've got this great art that is Steve Ditko drawing. And Paul Clark was like, yeah, we were able to use, original art from the comics, including Ditko art. And so whenever they had an opportunity to use Ditko, they did. So it works out perfectly for this Electro. Let's open this box. They all are just simple boxes. You got to be careful because I really don't want this thing to tear, but I've already taken him out because I needed him for our skit. Yeah, like I said, you got to be careful. So here is Electro. Now, one of the first things that you see with this figure is that because he was a little bit crunched in the box, the top of his starfish Electro look is bent over. Now, this plastic is rubbery, but it's a little firm. There is no way that I'm going to try to bend that without at least applying a little bit of gentle heat to it to see if I can get it to bend back in shape. But it's a feature of just being kind of stuffed in the box and the fact that it just doesn't fit perfectly. But look at how great that head sculpt is. Oh, just the eyes peeking through, the paint work on there. I love how tight the Electro stripes are on his costume, and he has really nice boots. Now, these look like the same boots that you're going to see with Superman and Batman. Again, I love the reuse. That makes it feel more 70s, more toyetic. Like, if everybody had unique individual parts, it wouldn't feel like Mego. Like, it's almost better that there's reuse of these parts. It just brings that retro nostalgia to these. And it doesn't take anything away. Now, the fact that they've got these little kind of cloth, almost foam lightning bolts coming off his gloves, that's crucial because that really adds an aspect of Electro's costume that you need. But the boots just look great on him. They're just terrific. And so, if we got like a Daredevil, I would be fine with Daredevil having Superman's boots. I mean, who cares? I just want to get a Mego Daredevil. But what we've got is a member of the original Sinister Six one of Steve Ditko's first villains in the comics, Max Dillon, the Electro, in all of his 8-inch cloth costumed glory. There was one other cool surprise in this package, and that's the inclusion of a coin. Let's pull this thing out and take a look at it. This is actually so cool. I am such a sucker for collector coins. It makes me think back to the Power of the Force days at the very end of the Star Wars line. And then I think sometime in the early 2000s, they brought those coins back and had a collector case, and I had to get all of these. But this coin has the Mego logo on one side, but the flip side is an exact replica of the 1973 coin released by Marvel with art by John Romita Sr. that's then carved into the coin. And apparently Paul Clark, Dr. Mego, had one of these early 70s coins, and he gave it to their fabricator, and they were able to perfectly replicate the collector coins from the early 70s Megos, or from the early 70s Marvels. I am hoping that as we get more and more of these 4-packs, that they have other coins, because I know they made Hulk and Captain America, so there were several more that could be included, and that would be so cool to have these in the packs. Just another thing that brings back that incredible 70s nostalgia with these Marvel coins from Mego.
Again, Mego's license with Marvel allows for these to be exclusively sold at Disney parks, at certain Disney specialty shops around the parks, and on DisneyShop.com. I'll keep you updated as more information comes out. But again, the best resource for all of this is the Brick Mantooth YouTube channel and the Mego Museum website. Please go check them out.
From the looks of it, we could be entering a new golden age of the world's greatest superheroes from Mego. These are the ones that we've already gotten. Obviously, we've got a ton of DC, and we've got our first Marvel ones. I mentioned a few that I want to see in the video. Tell me who you'd like to see. There is another wave of DC figures coming out. We've got, hopefully promised, 4 more box sets of Marvel Mego figures. Who do you want to see in them? Let me know. And as always, for the best in comics history and action figures, subscribe to Carbon Scoring.